So I'm in Ecclesiastes, and me and a buddy were talking about this recently. I had a lot of people over past few days, old college buddies, just friends, roommates, and we just filled the house up. And the house was people were coming in and out. House has been full the last few days, just playing board games, talking, doing stuff together. We shopped together for Christmas. Just all kinds of stuff, man. And it was a really, really good time. We worked out together, just everything. And we had a very exciting house. So a lot of good conversations, especially towards the end of the night, when some of the people left and just the guys that were staying and just sitting around the couch and talking. So, and at one point we were talking about Ecclesiastes and some concepts there. And my buddy actually brought it up, my college buddy. So I'm going to read this verse 14 and down, 8:14 and on. And this is not all that is meaningless in our world. In this life, good people are often treated as though they were wicked, and wicked people are often treated as though they were good. This is so meaningless. So I recommend having fun because there is nothing better for people in this world than to eat, drink, and enjoy life. That way they will experience some happiness along with all the hard work God gives them under the sun. In my search for wisdom and in my observance of people's burdens, observation of people's burdens here on earth, I discovered that there is ceaseless activity day and night. I realized that no one can discover everything God is doing under the sun. Not even the wisest people discover everything, no matter what they claim. It's kind of funny that, the wisest man on earth, right? And this is in the Bible, and it does not sound very, very Christian, right, to say this, but he says, so I recommend having fun because there's nothing better for people in this world than to eat, drink, and enjoy life. And we were talking about it. This was the other day, last night, I think, about, we've got all these goals. Today we're dealing with, actually I won't get to that just yet, but you're working hard, right? You're working out. We were talking about longevity, right? We try all these different, ideas and diets, and we watch content that talks about longevity, living longer, being healthier, especially if you're in the gym, you're working out, right? But the question is, what are you doing that for, right? To live longer. Well, to live longer and do what? To be healthy for what end, right? And you think about it, it's like if you, and the same goes for your money, right? We save, we put it into retirement, all this stuff with the hopes that we can live off of it when we're 70, and 80. And the thought is, it's like, this is something really interesting he said. I don't know if it was his idea, but if you live at like 80%, right, you're only living your 80% self, or no, maybe it was like, shoot. Essentially, if you're not doing the things you want to do, being true to yourself, taking risks, or doing things that you just enjoy, right, but you live till you're 80, right, that would be about the same as you living fully, right? And maybe you only lived to 50 or 60, but you did everything you wanted to do, right? And you got it all done, and you lived till you were 50 or 60. So this idea, I probably didn't think about this much. I should have thought about this more, or figured out what I was even talking about. But I think just the idea was that, if you're always saving, you're always like that one scripture that says you're focused on being too wise. You may live a long time, but all that means is you have more years and a longer life full of, whatever, investing in retirement, not making mistakes, not having fun, not, like he says here, eat, drinking, and enjoying life. You live a longer life, but then you're old and you can't do any of those things anyways. You kind of wasted your youth, right? Now there's one end of the spectrum which is wasting your youth by just spoiling everything, throwing it all away. But the funny thing is, there's another way to waste your youth, which is like being too wise, to being too smart. And that's what he's talking about here, right? Another thing that I really liked is when he talks about, in my search for wisdom and in my observation of people's burdens here on earth, I discovered that there's ceaseless activity day and night. I realized that no one can discover everything God is doing under the sun. So I'm thinking about, right, these issues about, oh gosh, like, we're not sustainable anymore. There's the white genocide going on. There's the Jew problem. There's the economic problem. People aren't buying houses till they're like 40. People aren't getting married. 60 some odd percent of people, or guys at least, are single under 30. The birth rate is not a sustainable rate anymore. All these issues, right? And as much as I am passionate about them, I can't help but be, because they're directly affecting me. And they're directly affecting my friends to a big degree. So when we're around each other, we talk about it, we experience it. But like what he's saying here, there is ceaseless activity day and night. No one can discover everything God is doing under the sun. Not even the wisest people discover everything, no matter what they claim. So we've got all these problems, and I just feel like even when we solve them, which we still should, there will always be problems this side of heaven. So this idea that I'm going to get so stressed, I'm just going to get so bent up, I'm going to stop enjoying my life, like the scripture says, right? Maybe Solomon was one of those guys. He tried to solve all the problems, and maybe he solved a lot, but there was just more, and he's like, man, this is meaningless. We could go all out at our own expense, thinking about our kids or our children's children, forsake everything and all enjoyment in this life for the sake of these causes that we're passionate about. And even if, and that's a big if, even if we do solve it, there will be more, potentially even bigger problems for our kids. Maybe like AI related and whatnot, which I need to talk about that sometime. But so the idea that we're just going to throw our lives away so that we can retire, at a ripe age, and we're going to throw all of our efforts into certain causes, and we're not going to make any mistakes. Solomon says that's kind of meaningless too, doing all that. And because there's always going to be problems. And yeah, I just think the main thing I'm thinking about is these things that we're passionate about as young guys that are affecting us. We can't help but try to fix them, and we should. We should try to fix them in our own life, and then fix them as a country. Fix things going on in the world, right? Even if you fix your own problems and you get out of that, dig yourself out of that hole, just know it's still a systemic issue that's going on, stuff we talk about. So let's not forget about our fellow brethren, And that's what I'm thinking in my head. I'm like, man, if I even do get in a good situation where I want to be, I can't forget, I got to still be striving. So, but I think the point is, even if we do get all that figured out, there will still be issues. So the key, I think, is to find a balance where we're talking about this stuff, we're making it known, and then we're doing some practical things, whether that's getting together as guys, in person, like I've been doing recently, or maybe there's even some like room in local politics for people that, feel like they're called to that. Maybe leadership in the church. Maybe you have the ability to affect the leadership in your church, the direction of your church. Maybe you are in some type of position, in some type of ministry, right? In your own family, making this stuff known, talked about, not making it taboo, or not making it sound like it's some, bitter hatred from young men and incels and stuff like that. Just normalizing it, essentially. That's some stuff we can do. But if we're gonna sacrifice our life entirely just for the hope of spending every ounce of effort we have on these issues, I don't think that's wise. I think the idea is to find a balance between the two. I don't think it's healthy either, right? Because this is a long journey. It's not going to be solved instantly. So this idea you're just going to consume a bunch of content and just go on social media or do whatever you're doing just nonstop and you're going to fix it in a few months, it's not going to happen. It's a marathon, right? And you need to keep a good attitude. You need to carry a good reputation and still do other things, even though it's hard to provide, right, and earn money because of a lot of these, like, feminist issues going on and how it's affected our economy and the issues with our financial system and economic system, right, and corruption, all that jazz. We should still be trying to provide, still be trying to earn to the best of our ability while simultaneously talking about these things and making some type of effect, making our voice known, right? So I think the answer is the balance. Because to be honest with you, I start getting burnt out, man. Like even recently, we had everyone around. We had like 4, 5, 6. I don't know. I mean, we had at one point we had like maybe 10 guys or 10 people. I don't know. But usually the core group was around, yeah, maybe 7. I don't know. But we were all talking about this, right? We were talking about this thing going on, and actually no, it was probably 6. Yeah, I think it was 6. But we were all in agreement, and it was all good stuff, and that's what we want. That's what we want. But as I was looking around, noticing, like, this is what we need, I realized a lot of these guys, they've already escaped the matrix. They're already very aware. They're intelligent guys. There's no convincing to be done here, right? We're here, we're supporting each other. That was key. That was important. We played games. I think we personally had a good balance, right? All the guys that were over this last weekend. But I just, I couldn't help but notice it's like there is a bit of an echo chamber going on, right? Because a lot of us, none of us are like far behind in terms of like learning about this stuff, figuring this stuff out, what's going on in the world. We've all discovered it on our own time at different times through different people. It's not like we all listen to one influencer and, we all figured it out organically on our own. What's going on in the church? That's a big one, right? Because these guys are Christians. What's going on in the church and how it's not supporting men and how it's been affected by the feminist movement and just the liberal movement, everything. How the church is essentially a joke. Like these guys all agree that. And then now, what's going on in the world with women and with some other stuff I'm not even going to get into, right? So they're already there. We're all there. So there's no like debating going on or back and forth in that sense, because we've all already reached that level. It's kind of funny. Some of us have done a little bit more research and are even a little bit more enlightened or whatever, but we're all there essentially. So the benefit was the support, but I realized that we can only talk about this so much. Like let's do some stuff together. Let's live life a little bit. Let's eat, drink, be merry. I tried making some homemade eggnog. It was disgusting. I ended up that it was too thick, and I curdled the eggs in the milk. And anyways, it was like drinking porridge or oatmeal. So, but I just realized that when we're together, we need to talk when we need to talk. We need to teach people about this stuff a little bit, and just stand up as guys, as young guys, for what we care about. But we also need to enjoy life a little bit. Support each other, eat, drink, and be merry, like Ecclesiastes says. And I think we did a good job of that. But that's just something to think about, because you can go down this rabbit hole of following all these political influencers, which, if you haven't noticed, a lot of these guys, like even the good ones, they're benefiting from all this, right? They may be passionate about it, even the guys in the manosphere, but they're all profiting from it. They're making money from it, which isn't wrong, right? They're doing good work. They deserve to be compensated. But just know that if this problem got fixed tomorrow, they would probably find something else to talk about to keep that audience, to keep, they need stuff like this. And it's very easy today because we got so many problems that are so very obvious. It's just a lot of material to work with. But just know that if we fix the feminist problem, the fact people aren't dating or marrying, go down the list. I'm not even going to talk about the other ones just because I don't want to right now. But if you fix all those problems, church problems and stuff, they would still have stuff they need to talk about. They would come up with other stuff, and they'd have that same attitude, that same energy, right? So that's not to discredit any of the influencers out there and people doing podcasts and whatnot, but that is to say you need to be aware of it. And yeah, in some sense, like, just have a little bit of like self-control with how much you consume, how much you talk about it, right? Do it at a healthy level, at strategic times. And just that rabbit hole of, there's endless information because people are making money off of this content, right? The people that are against it, that are ignoring the problem, that are calling out young guys and saying you're the problem, that are ignoring the promiscuous women with like body counts and tattoos and septum piercings and, that aren't wanting to get married, or they're not, they're focused on other stuff. Like, their church can ignore it. They'll pump out content, to say you're the problem as a young man, all that stuff, right? So you got those guys that are evil, in my opinion, and then you got the good guys, in the manosphere or whatever. Not all of them, but to a level, their message is good, right? Pumping out material too. And they're both benefiting from this. They're benefiting from your problems as guys. They're benefiting from you. And all the bad stuff going on, right? And in turn, obviously, young women too. It's not just a guy problem. I'm talking to the guys. But if we figure this out, it's going to be better for both of us. Trust me. It's going to be better for both of us. And the kids that you probably wouldn't have had otherwise. So, yeah, that's something I've realized. I'm like, there's no end of content. There's always going to be more. So I got to find that balance. And I'm kind of thinking, I was talking with my buddy the other day, and you need to be thinking too. How are you going to, with this year coming up, how are you going to spend this year in a way that it's like Ecclesiastes says, you eat, sleep, and enjoy life. Or, yeah, eat, drink, and enjoy life. How are you going to spend this year doing some of that, right? Balancing the earning money, the providing for yourself, and, if you have other people in your life, which part of the problem is we don't a lot of times, in America today. But providing for yourself and others if you got others. But find that balance. I think that's the key. And that's what I'm going to be thinking about a lot now too. It's like, okay, I went on this, like this is the topic of the day, just freaking eyeballs deep in it. But how can I make that sustainable? How can I still live for truth, strive to fix these problems, strive to be outspoken, but also still live life? Not be in a cave, not be in a information echo chamber. This is all we talk about when we're together. This is all we ever do, right? How do we find solutions to it? How to keep that message coming across, but still live and enjoy life a little bit. So, if we all died next year, it wouldn't be a bust. It wouldn't be a waste. So, and that's different for every person. Every person's at a different level. Maybe you need to still learn more, and you need to do more research and say, what's going on with young guys today? Maybe you're still at that level, in which case, go down that rabbit hole a little bit. But maybe you're like me, and like a lot of my friends, like a lot of guys, and you've been enlightened. You've escaped the matrix. You know what's going on. You know the things that we're not allowed to talk about. You've researched into them, and you've had conversations about them with other guys you trusted. And you're starting to see things for what they really are, right? How things are really playing out in society, in the culture, in the family life in America, or the lack thereof in the dating world, in the work world. in the church world, man, that's a big one, man. Seeing all the evil and corruption going on, and not in the ways you thought, right? Not in the ways you thought, but in good meaning, supposedly good churches, which actively ignore certain parts of the Bible to keep men down and to keep women, free to do whatever they want. And yeah, so anyways, you know, if you're already there, you already know that stuff. Find a way to make this sustainable. You can't be depressed all the time, man. This stuff makes you depressed. It really does, right? Because it's depressing stuff. It's a tough time, right? Where stuff seems good, but there's really a lot of evil going on. Um, so you need to find a way to make it sustainable, and not be consuming so much information that you become depressed. It's dark stuff, right? It's really dark stuff. So the biggest thing is having guys around you that you can talk about it with, and then when you're together, also learn how to enjoy life a little bit. Even if you are single, even if you are alone, even if the church, you feel like you can't go there anymore, even if, you're still having work problems, and even if you are still, disheartened by the stuff going on in the government and whatnot, right? Because it's all true, every bit of it, right? The lying, the deception, um, you know, all of it. The feminist movement getting the better of the church, the better of men, the better of the culture. Men just being, yeah, just demonized. Women being, in a sense, just made till they're just hardly wife material, or they're so corrupted in their mind that maybe they could make a good wife, could be dateable, but they're so deceived, right? They're so misled, even in the church, right, with how things should be, just because of the sheer lack of, accountability, the lack of just pushing this egalitarian bullcrap, So it's dark stuff. It's really dark. There's a lot of dark stuff going on, but learn how to live a little bit. Learn how to enjoy life a little bit amidst the chaos, right? Stay true. Keep staying in the Word. That's big. Stay in the Word. Keep researching this stuff. Keep, be outspoken about it. Get around your other guys, your guy friends, right? Support each other. And then just stay in the Word, man. So, it's already said, but I think that's the biggest thing, man. The biggest thing. The Word of God is truth. It's a sword, right? It's a sharp, double-edged sword that pierces flesh and bone. Yeah, that's the biggest thing.